with big wave surfer, adventurer, and motivational speaker Chris Bertish joining us in studio. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
It's actually lovely for you to be here because I know you're on call for the Mavericks Invitational. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a pretty unique event. It's pretty much known as the most prestigious big wave event in the world. Only the top 24 in the world are invited to the event, and I'm very fortunate, obviously, to be invited back with Grant Twiggy Baker, one of my fellow South Africans. And it's a really unique and honor to be invited to that event because it's pretty much the heaviest, most prestigious big wave event on the planet, and the heaviest wave you can possibly imagine. So, to be recognized for that kind of event is pretty special. Mm-hmm. It's not only just being a big wave surfer, it's also about being a waterman, and I think that's a pretty special honor and privilege as a South African to be invited to something like that. But it is a very unique event. It's on standby. Pretty much the waiting period is 5 months from the 1st of November right through until end of March next year, which is very difficult as a surfer based in South Africa, because I still run my business, I still work full time and do a lot of talks all around the place, and you're pretty much on standby for 5 months. Any split second you could get a notification that you got a flight, and you pretty much got to drop everything and try and book a ticket on the way to the airport, and spend another 36 hours on flights, transfers and what have you, getting there. Hope your equipment arrives there on time, and hopefully you get there 3 or 4 hours before the event actually starts. Try and get 2 hours sleep, collect all your equipment, get prepped, and go down and surf 50 to 60 foot waves. So it's almost like the great race, just trying to get to the
amazing
event.
Race.
And I think that's what makes it really difficult coming from South Africa, because you're pretty much on the other side of the world, and
it's in the States.
It's in America. It's in Half Moon Bay, which is about 20 minutes south of San Francisco.
Okay.
But you got to fly, via, and then the lay time in between different flights, and trying to make sure your equipment arrives on time. And it really is a marathon of an event, just getting there in time for the event, and then to be able to compete against like the world's best guys that get paid full time as a profession, to be able to do it it's a tall task. But I think South Africans, we have a lot of fire, a lot of passion, and often when you get that kind of opportunity, you really have to just dig really deep. You pretty much flying on adrenaline all the time. So so I think that's what sort of gets you through. You don't really notice the tiredness, and you just got to suck it up, focus on what you're doing, and get your head straight. Make sure you're prepared and trained and you're ready and you got the right equipment, and go out and make South Africa proud.
Well, you actually won the competition in 2010.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty unique and special year. It was very fortunate that when I competed in that year, it was the biggest waves in the history of the sport, actually. And to win on a day like that, after traveling 36 hours, dropping everything, I was completely financially broke at the time. I borrowed money from friends and family to be able to fly over, got there like 3 or 4 hours before the event started. My equipment didn't arrive. I had to borrow other equipment, and to use not the right equipment or your equipment on that day is really, really scary, especially when the waves that day were between sort of 50 and 65 feet, and I ended up almost drowning in my first heat of the day. And it was one of those special days, competing against guys that have been your childhood heroes since you were 15 years old, and ended up rubbing shoulders and surfing them, and then ending up winning the entire event in a day that is considered to be the day of all days, and the benchmark for what people are doing now is pretty special. So more than a dream come true. It's like it was scripted in the stars.
That's amazing, and hopefully you win again this time.
Well, this time I'm going back with a different sort of attitude. I'd set that goal for myself 12 years ago, and it took me 10 years to get that invitation to that event, just going over and trying every year, and getting that invitation that year and flying over, and ended up winning it in those conditions was more like a fairy tale. I'm a very focused and goal-driven person, so I've ticked that box, and now I'm going back just to try and do South Africa proud, share some really big waves with a couple of really good friends that I've built over the last 20 years of surfing big waves. It's like a very unique brotherhood that we've come to know, because they're only probably between 30 and 80 people around the world that do that kind of thing, and to be able to share life-threatening experiences on a regular basis with the same bunch of people, where you're all looking out for each other, and you would gladly give up your life for trying to save one of your friends without even blinking an eye. I think is a very special and unique little bond that you create with this brotherhood that sort of you see at different places around the world when the most scary, treacherous waves pop up all around the planet, and you literally fly around the world tracking down the biggest and gnarliest storms that generate waves that most people, and conditions and weather that most people batten down the hatches and run for cover, and you sort of trying to get there.
You're
because
running into the ocean.
Yeah, the smile on your face just gets bigger the bigger the storm is, because it generates bigger swells. So it's a really unique experience, a really unique set of people, and I think that bond that you get with sharing like monster surf with each other, where you can die on a regular basis, is quite special.
Well, you mentioned the brotherhood, and I know Grant Twiggy Baker is going to be at the competition as well. He's also invited. What can we expect from our two South African athletes?
There's actually another South African, a guy called Frank Solomon, who's also from Cape Town, who hasn't made the main event list. He's made the alternate list, and he's also been trying for a while to get into the event, and I hope he goes over there this season and shines, and hopefully he gets an invitation in the next couple of years. It's a hard nut to crack, and I know personally from how long it took me, how much hard work and dedication it takes to doing it, and I think especially as it's a fringe sport in South Africa, to get the backing and support to be able to go over and do it. I mean, I still work full time and use my full-time job in motivational speaking to be able to help me, go over and compete and represent my country. But I think Twiggy this year, I think is going to do really, really well. I've just got a really good feeling about it. I know that he's been training and working really hard. He's got a very different focus to me this year, and I think his whole main focus is just to go over there and win the event. And I think he's really hungry. There's a lot that's happened with him over the last year, which I think will give him a renewed passion and fire to be able to go over and actually win the event. And I think if there's one guy who's really, really driven this year, and that's his 100% focus and drive and goal, I think it's probably Twiggy this year. And I think he's going to do really well, and I think he's going to do our country proud.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go over there and just do the best I can, and just go and enjoy the experience this year, and enjoy the whole experience about Mavericks and about the whole brotherhood, and sharing waves with some of my best friends and childhood heroes. It's a very unique experience, and it's one of those things that if you don't stop to actually embrace it and take it all in, you can forget what an incredible experience it is, and how fortunate you are to be part of that 24. And I think that's something I'd really like to embrace this year around.
Awesome. I want to talk about the extent of big wave surfing. I know the waves can get up to 12, 13, 14 meters at times. What made you go from being just a regular wave surfer to big wave surfer? What made you hungry for that?
I think a lot of people often ask that question, and I think it's something either you love or you don't. I've always enjoyed just challenging myself and seeing how far I can push my own personal limits and borders and boundaries, and sort of redefine what's possible. I've surfed a couple of waves in the world which most people thought were impossible until it was done, and I've always believed that if you can take the two words can't and impossible out of your vocabulary, then the canvas is suddenly wide open, and anything you decide you can achieve, you can. It's just a matter of deciding that you made that decision and having the belief and courage within yourself to be able to follow your goals and live your dreams.
And what's going through your head when you're facing a 14-meter wave?
That you hope you've done all the preparation and training necessary, because it's really not the time that you think I shouldn't have spent so much time in the pub or smoked that extra pack of cigarettes. So I pretty much stopped, drinking. I don't drink a lot anyhow, but I pretty much stopped drinking for like 4 or 5 months. I don't have any alcohol, and sort of just focus specifically on training. And I think a lot of people don't realize like how much time and preparation and sacrifice goes into competing at that level. And most people think, surfers, all kind of the same, but you know, it's an incredible amount of preparation and training and sacrifice that goes in. You know, I spend more time in the pool and on the stand-up paddleboard and cross-training between different disciplines to be able to be completely focused and prepared to be able to tackle that kind of surf, because you are dealing in life-threatening, you know, situations, and you need to minimize the risk as much as possible so that you are completely 100% confident within yourself when you go into that situation. So you know that whatever situation you get yourself into, you can get yourself out.
Yeah. I want to talk about that training. What's your training regimen been like?
It sort of fluctuates in how much work I've got on my plate.
Yeah.
But I always try and get in, you know, try and train early in the morning and late in the afternoon, and then bump up my training on the weekends to try and put in at least, you know, 4 to 5 hours. I cross-train between stand-up paddleboarding, swimming, underwater training, and then surfing. And a lot of people think you just go out and surf, but I'd say surfing is probably the smallest amount of the training that I do for being able to get up to that level, which is quite unique. But I guess you look at all the rugby players and cricket players or golfers and stuff, it's the same thing. They spend a lot of time in the gym, they spend a lot of time doing that kind of thing. You won't find me pumping weights in the gym. I wouldn't know what to do with most of those machines, but a lot of time in the pool and a lot of underwater training. I think as much time as I spend above the water training in the pool, I spend below.
What's underwater training?
So basically just mimicking getting caught inside by a big wave or falling off on a big wave, and being able to still use all your energy and still use all your extremities and your muscles while you're holding your breath, because most people don't realize your lungs are a muscle like any other muscle in your body, and if you train your muscle, as in your lungs, to be able to hold your breath longer, then you can hold your breath longer than most people. Hold it, well, I wouldn't say as long as a goldfish, but yeah, no, you know, when you train properly, you should be able to hold your breath for between 4.5 and 5 minutes static, which is the equivalent of only about 1.5 minutes in a really hectic situation in big surf, because you're using your arms and your legs and you're trying to get to the surface and climbing your leash and a whole lot of things where you don't really want to be. And you've got to try and remain calm, think of white fluffy clouds, or before, like while you're trying not to black out, while you're being, you know, tumbled under the water, where it feels like Mike Tyson, Bruce Lee and his 8 ninja buddies are kicking the crap out of you while you're being dragged like backwards underneath the water in sheer blackness by one leg twice as fast as an Olympic sprinter. So there's a lot that happens that people don't understand, and how much pressure and energy is getting used when you get pushed down 40 feet in the space of a split second, you know.